Welcome back to the Charismatic Voice. My nightmare is losing someone that I'm close to. I think that's a lot of people's nightmares. And one of the closest relationships that I think a human can have is that of a long-term bandmate. When you form a band together, you sweat together and ultimately find success together. That's a journey that you've taken with chosen family. So the fact that Avenged Sevenfold continued after losing their drummer, the Rev, is nothing less than astonishing. Today, I'm going to listen to a song for the first time from the album that they released just after his death. Let's get to it. Ooh, big sudden surge right there that we're gonna go back and get to experience one more time. I really enjoy the way from the very first sound, they've established a rather creepy, large room or large space that we're in. This is partly because they've chosen this instrument that has an almost like bounce to it. Makes me wonder if it's actually from Logic. There's an instrument called Sculpture inside of Logic that could be designed to create a similar sound. And there's a little bit of an echo or like a delay that's happening after that that gives a sense of a larger space. I also love the choice of strings here. Strings to me always feel like, I like to just call them heartstrings. I feel like when I hear strings, especially in broad strokes like this, it feels like it's broad swaths of emotion. Back to the beginning one more time, and then we'll catch a little more of what this instrumental intro actually is. You hear that bouncing there, that there's like a delay? That's what's establishing this space. It also feels very high and like glassy in the actual material. I think it gives it a slight haunted vibe. It's such a soft start for this, what is a very heavy metal band. I am really into all the different textures that have been developed here. I know that we have Mike Portnoy that's doing the drums in this at this point, though I think that the Rev helped originally with the writing of many of the songs on this album. And the fills in it are so impressive. The way that the drums affect the overall texture is just, it's such a huge impact, and it makes an entire section feel like we've almost entered another chapter in a storybook. I'm going to come back to this drop. There are a few things here I want to point out. That right away. I love the way we get this really strong melody from the guitar, right? Those are some pretty awesome soaring melodies. And then it's enhanced just a second later with harmonies. So do we have maybe two guitars that are playing that melody at first that then break into harmonies? I like it. This feels like it should be iconic. It might be iconic, I just don't know yet. And that drum fill, the short bursts, that's so awesome again. And then this like swung kind of, it's not swung, it's like a big double kind. It opens it up so much more. I love those guitar harmonies. So this is fascinating. The initial entrance and some backing vocals we have in there. When M Shadows starts to sing, it is so direct. I I personally think that one of the best strategies for singing is to be direct. A lot of singers, when they're working on their singing, they'll kind of futz with things and be like, "Oh, I'm not sure I want to let that sound go yet." It's important to experiment and develop all kinds of different tone qualities, find all kinds of amazing pockets that you can use to help marinate the sound. But ultimately, you need to deliver that sound to your audience. And sometimes, a lot of times, aspiring singers will get a little messed up in trying to keep that sound for themselves when they really need to just give it up. So his initial entrance to me is like the greatest example of just boom, direct right here. Then after that, we have these really interesting, it sounded like double octave backing vocals that have an electronic edge to them as well. I was a little surprised by how much of an electronic edge there was there. I guess that goes into a little bit of the metalcore influence that I hear in their sound. Cool. Let's go back just a little bit more. New section there. Maybe the chorus? That might be the chorus we just went into. I I think it is incredible how much similarity I hear to James Hetfield's voice quite often with his, and it has to do with that directness, and it has to do um, with this consistently strong sound that has an edge, a sort of grit on it. As somebody who is very actively studying how vocal distortions are created, of course, I'm really curious. I'm like, I wonder what piece of his anatomy he's using to create that extra rough sound on top. It doesn't sound to me like that gravel is coming from his true vocal folds. So likely it's going to be a structure above that. It doesn't sound like it's false folds to me at all. So I would consider it to be likely an upper laryngeal structure. And honestly, we've seen sounds similar to this be created by different combinations of things up there. So I hope that in the next, let's say within the next 5 years, I really want to be able to hear that sound and say, it's this. And so I'm helping research get done so that we can say that. Let's go back a little bit more. Right. It definitely has an edge there. Although I think that edge is heightened because he's actually gone extremely nasal with some of that lower sound. And that nasality helps him have more cut. Okay, we'll keep going. Down below, down to the devil's shore, to be his guest forever. These are mine as last and never. Hate to twist your mind, but God ain't on your side. An old acquaintance ever. The world your last endeavor. Ashes burning, you can smell it in the echoes, men like you have. Yeah, right in there when we get that double again, I hear so much nasality in the sound where when we say nasality, it's really interesting because it's something that is it's a tone quality that can be very subjective. Some people hate it. Some people love it, right? Country lovers seem to love it more than most people. Uh, and essentially, nasality comes from dropping the soft palate and sending the sound through the nose. When you're singing something, it has to exit somewhere, right? You create a sound here with your vocal folds. It comes up And it can go through your mouth and go like, ah, or it can actually come through your nose. So if I said an the sound is exiting through my nose. There are a bunch of other things that we can do with structures in here to increase and decrease nasality as well. But one of the main things that can be done is sending it through nose or through mouth. And if you have your mouth open, you're saying an ah, but you add a lot of nasality, ah, that is just dropping your soft palate a lot so that there's this mix of exiting through mouth and nose. He brings us so much nasality into his sound in the lower part. And like I said earlier, that could be a great strategy when singing with metal groups, especially because there's such a huge wall of sound that needs to be cut through by the vocalist.
To be his guest forever. Peace of mind is less than ever. Hate to twist your mind, but God ain't on your side. And all the
I love his dip song there.
Your last endeavor. Ashes burning, you can smell it in the air. 'Cause man like you have such an easy
It's like going nya.
So standing live while banging numbers in your head. You're now a slave until the end of time. Nothing stops the path that's dirty.
That's so creepy.
Pull the trigger. You should have known the price of evil. And it hurts to know that you belong here. Yeah. It's your fucking nightmare.
Oh gosh, that is a very disturbing image. The whole thing honestly is very disturbing. It reminds me of a role I played once in Faust. I was playing Marguerite, if you guys are familiar with the story of Faust. One of my favorite roles to sing, by the way. I've done that a few times now and really, really loved it. But in this particular production of Faust, we set it in a insane asylum, essentially, with like crumbling wallpaper. This entire idea. It was a very powerful take on Faust, and the way that I imagined that facility is very much akin to what we're seeing here. It's very strong. I think that music allows us to connect to these sort of insane feelings and thoughts, these emotions, and allows us to more fully process and express them. And being a singer, just honestly being a musician, where you're constantly channeling all of those feelings into your work every day, it essentially is building your heart. I feel like it's building up your emotions, strengthening them. And if they're really positive emotions, that's awesome. If they're really sad emotions, that can be really hard to deal with. So I want to mention that because I know a lot of people struggle with depression, and this song certainly talks about aspects of that. One of the best pieces of advice that I ever got actually was while I was singing a Marguerite, a different production though. It was from a therapist that said, "Hey, I was struggling. I was really sad, y'all." She said, "Your heart is so much stronger than your mind." It was like my mind could not balance my emotion at that point. And she said, "You need to try to strengthen your mind and give it the same love and attention that your heart has had." And it's not that I wasn't giving it love and attention and growing and learning all these languages, becoming smarter and smarter, but the ability of the mind to balance my emotions was something she told me I really needed to work on. And honestly, it might not be the advice that you need to hear, but it was the advice that I needed to hear, and it helped me so much in overcoming depression. I'm gonna go back again. Let's go back to here.
Easy soul to steal. So standing live while banging numbers in your head. You're now a slave until the end of time. Nothing stops the path
Yeah,
that's turning.
that's so creepy.
Pull the trigger. You should have known
This is beautiful, this section.
the price of evil. And it hurts to know that you belong here. Yeah. It's your fucking nightmare.
Just one more comment before we continue. I think M Shadows has a very good technique for sustaining a line. A lot of times people, when they're singing, they'll sing word to word, and it almost feels like it's chopped up into sections, like lots of little tiny sausages. And he instead has this beautiful line where it feels like the energy of the vocal line is never leaving us. It hooks us and it keeps us the entire time. And I expect it will continue to do that throughout the song. So much personality in that song.
Can't wake up and sweat, cause it ain't over yet. Still dancing with your demons. Victim of your own creation. Beyond the will to fight, where all that's wrong is right. Where hate don't need a reason. All that self-assassination. You've been lied to just a
How much pure screaming does M Shadows do? I need to know this. I'm curious. Does he? Because this isn't approaching the amount of screaming that, say, like a Will Ramos would do, right? Where it's just mostly screams. Will does clean singing and other things, but with Lorna Shore, it's just been screams so far. So I think about most bands are essentially the opposite in metal, right? But this deathcore, I guess, is where you have like major screams all the time. When we're talking about this kind of heavy metal as a broader term, I don't usually hear just straight up screamed lines. Usually they have a sense of a melody underneath them and they have distortion on top. But M Shadows is getting very close to exclusive, what I would call pure harsh vocals, meaning we remove the true vocal folds from any of that sound creation whatsoever. He's getting very close there. I'm curious, like, how far does he go? I'm obviously barely touched just the top of their catalog, and I would like your information. I can you tell me in those comments or in that live premiere, are there instances of him just doing tons of pure harsh vocal screams? Let me know.
Can't wake up and sweat, cause it ain't over yet. Still dancing with your demons. Victim of your own creation. Beyond the will to fight, where all that's wrong is right. Where hate don't need a reason. All that self-assassination. You've been lied to just to rid you of your side, and now they have enough to tell you how to feel. So sedated as they medicate your brain, and while you slowly go insane, they tell you living with the best intentions of you with no complication. You should.
His mouth is definitely in that Pez dispenser status. It's like incredible enunciation and use of his singing hole. Uh, this video is very disturbing. I, I think I would put it up there with some Slipknot videos as far as like that disturbing nature of it. But again, I haven't seen much of Avenged Sevenfold's catalog, so maybe this is just how their videos often are, is that really disturbing edge. Oh boy, it does twist my stomach a little bit. I'm gonna go back because I admit I was distracted by the imagery and didn't do as much music analysis as I feel like I should have. Okay, back.
Can't wake up and sweat, cause it ain't over yet. Still dancing with your demons. Victim of your own creation. Beyond the will
That
to
basketball.
fight, where all that's wrong is
That's
right. Where
so
hate
bothersome.
don't need a reason. All that self-assassination. You've been lied to just to rid you of your side, and now they have enough to tell you how to feel. So sedated as they medicate your brain, and while you slowly go insane, they tell you living with the best intentions of you with no complication. You should know.
I swear, so much about his sound actually feels classical because it is a beefy sound. It's got a lot of power behind it. It sounds like there's a lot of open throatedness in some areas, but then of course you have other areas which are coming close enough to create that distortion on top of the pitch. So that in itself is very fascinating to me. Uh, I see a lot of body underneath his sound, so it feels like he has a really low support going on. And the way that he's enunciating reminds me of the absolute over enunciation that is essential for an opera singer to get their words out, because opera singers aren't singing on microphones, right? How do you get all of those words, especially if they're rapid words with that mass of sound behind them? How do you get those out to your audience? It is so much focus on enunciation when you study opera. His enunciation here is not as exaggerated as opera, but he's close enough to Mike that it does feel really, really clean and big without being overdone. It's fascinating. I wonder if he had classical training. Oh, that's terrifying.
Nightmare.
Wow. Yeah, that got real creepy. You even had those church bells in there and some sort of, it sounded like almost a bass vocal on the bottom. I don't know. I'll have to go back and hear that again. I think it's very smart how they've dropped the sound underneath his voice and key moments. We're constantly getting a clearing of our ears so that we can reappreciate what's happening, especially in the instruments. I want to go back again. His diphthongs are very distinct, which when you combine with the rest of his enunciation, how wide his mouth is, how really definitive a lot of those shapes are, it makes perfect sense that we'd have really well-defined diphthongs. There. Pain. It's almost like a Judas Priest level of a diphthong there. Pain.
Your fucking nightmare.
We switch to a waltz. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Or it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And back to our 4/4 time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. These guitars are epic. I feel like I'm transported to Castlevania right now. I'm actually that ha 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 ha. I thought that was bringing in vocals. Now I just realized I probably paused in the middle of the instrumental solo, and you guys are gonna butcher me online for that. I don't apologize. Maybe I do. I didn't get the full effect of the instrumental solo. We're gonna go back, and I'll let the full instrumental solo play. I feel like this is very inspired by video games, retro video gamer here, and Iron Maiden. Those two things. It's just, I love how much fun it was switching into that waltz. And then the way we're plowing ahead, it's got lots of energy. There's almost a quirkiness about it even. It's honestly a bit of a nice break and shift in emotion from what feels like lots of anger at like, insanity. Oh, yeah. The emotion of this is extremely, extremely deep. So I think having a switch gives us a little bit of breath before we probably come back to that.
It's your fucking nightmare.
Brilliant drum work there. So many soaring guitar melodies in this. It makes me shiver with happiness. Oh, I love that line. And again with the epic harmonies. I love it. And the inlays of that guitar are awesome. Okay, so the instrumental solo was almost done when he did the ha 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 ha. It was kind of winding down. I don't feel so bad now. I told you I didn't feel bad, but I actually did. That pitch bend that like brings us back down to earth and like gives us a little bob. I felt that in my stomach. Lots of chromaticism there.
Not to fail, not to fall, or you'll end up like the others. Die again, drenched in sand, with no respect for another.
Oh, I love those lyrics. I read the lyrics ahead of time. I usually do when I'm analyzing songs. I know I'm about to analyze a song. I'll usually take those lyrics and give them a once through just to get an impression of what I might be getting into and if there's any particular things to watch out for. This part in the lyrics, upon reading it, I thought that's interesting, but I think it's going to be all about how it's set, and it is all about how this is set. That fight, the echoing of that, it is inspirational, I think, to a person who's going through a tough time, saying, look, don't give up. You can make it. You can get to the other side. I feel that's such an important message too, especially if you're going through a tough time, because, oh man, again, having been there, you get into a hole and it feels like you have to claw your way out and it's all crumbling around you. So it's extra hard. It's just, I think that it is so important to learn how to fight for yourself, learn how to love yourself that much that you're willing to fight for yourself to get out of those pits.
Not to fail, not to fall, or you'll end up like the others. Die again, drenched in sand, with no respect for another.
Ugh.
Feel the fire, feel the hate. You're
And this, oh God, perfect moment to pause to make my point. This is where I seriously feel like I'm in a Slipknot video. Like, is this hive mind? What's going on? This is gross.
Feel the fire, feel the hate. Your pain is what we desire. Lost, hit the wall. Watch you crawl. Such a replaceable liar.
Just curious, whose children are those? When they're like, yeah, kiddos, go be creepy. This is gonna be fun. I think they're probably just enjoying the heck out of themselves making this, but still, like, oh my gosh. I don't know if I would let my child do that at that age. No judgment on what another person decides to let their kiddo do for music videos here. Okay, my child is not yet that age, so I can't really make that decision even for myself. But there's a little twist in my stomach that's like, oh God, who's kid?
Watch you crawl. Such a replaceable liar.
Like, hey honey, we're gonna hand paint with red, lots of red.
And I know that may seem real, but
Wow.
I've made up a choice.
There's this other quality of M. Shadow's voice sometimes that feels just beautiful and haunting. I think it's in this slide, a little fluffiness that he adds to the sound. It's like he takes off that pushed, distorted edge and gives it some sort of smooth feeling. Then you add a little bit of reverb to that, and suddenly I feel like instead of his sound um, being a driving force of a song, it feels like it suddenly takes the back pedal and allows you to languish in the sound more. Oof.
It may seem real,
Yeah. And the slide,
I've made up a
it's very haunted.
They took for granted your soul, and it's ours now to steal.
And then we got that. That's like that's similar to Lizzie Hale, how she goes on her sound too. It goes like right there. Oh. I feel like this chorus is just directed at the Rev. There's so many emotions that they're struggling through. I can't comprehend them. I can guess at what they might be, but I've never lost someone in this way. So it's honestly, it feels to me like an honor to be able to get to listen to this because the band was willing to share that emotion with their audience. That is very special. It's not something everyone would choose, but it certainly is a gift, I think, especially because this was partly created by the Rev, and then they brought Mike Portnoy in to help it come to life and be recorded. So there's something incredibly beautiful about giving this to their audience. Such strong vocals there. Baggy, get with that diphthong.
It's your fucking nightmare.
Wow. I don't know if y'all caught this, but that empty drum set, I feel that signifies the Rev, and the white fade definitely that he's gone somewhere else. Wow.
It's your fucking nightmare.
It's like they're in the nightmare that the Rev is still dreaming. All musical and vocal analysis aside, this song is heavy. It's not just heavy musically, but it's heavy to listen to the words and really think about what they meant to the people that were creating them. Think about how to apply them today. It feels like a weight on the chest. So I gotta say, I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna go smell some flowers, and I'm gonna put up a playlist of analyses over here that is Slipknot videos, so you can tell me if it was indeed very similar to Slipknot. And may you fall more in love with music every day.